Hello flight simmers, welcome back to the channel. In this cockpit update, we're going to be looking at the manual trim panel. Okay, so out with the old and in with the new. So this was the one I just removed from my cockpit. This is an ASC manual trim. Again, great little board. The creator is no longer with us. It uses air cores for the needles, and it's got a bunch of 3D printed wheels with some other real mil-spec Honeywell switches and switch guards and knobs, etc., which can make it into a fairly nice looking replica. One of the problems with most replica panels is the backlighting is pretty insufficient. It's usually not consistent with how the lighting is done, and it's quite complex. But the main issue with wanting to change this out for a new one, a real one, other than the fact that it's real, was of course using pots. You can use your trim as an analog access, but along with the stick, the trim switch is going to be digital. And what I discovered was you can't do a digital and analog trim at the same time. So pretty much you're doing a digital trim. And one of the problems with the digital trim was you couldn't null out the center. So when you did adjust your trim, I found it was really hard to get a dead center. So I found that once I adjusted the trim once, I could never get it centered, and it seemed like I was always adjusting it through the flight. So it's kind of a bit of a pain in the butt, but nonetheless, it was a great working panel. I used it for like 3 years now, and can't say enough about ASC hardware, and it's too bad they no longer exist. So it actually took me 5 years to find this bad boy here. I looked for this one for a long time, and I was absolutely blown away when I got my hands on this one, looking at the shape that it's in. However, when I took it apart to test it all, I discovered 2 of the relays were burnt, and the light plate appears as if someone maybe applied too much voltage, as all the bulbs were burnt in it, almost all of them, except for a couple down in this area right here. That was quite devastating to me because I have a couple spare light plates that are in horrible shape, and if you look at this one, it's in mint shape. So to see it not working was pretty sad. So with the attitude of I can't make it any worse, I've often wondered if it would be possible to change the bulbs that are integrated inside these light plates. So it took me almost an entire weekend. One of the good things on the light plates is on the back, they are indicated where the wiring and the bulbs are. So I first used a drill, and I drilled out the bulbs and carefully removed them, as well as the blue-white heatsink filters. And then I used a Dremel, and I carefully Dremeled out all the wiring, which was actually quite shockingly easy. So I'm not sure what they used to fill in the panel, but it's a bit of a softer material and was really easy to Dremel that out. So once I had all that done, I had a bunch of spare new blue filters, heatsink filters that I wanted to put in the panel. So I had to remelt the holes just a little bit more to get them in. And then slowly, one by one, I just started wiring it. And it turned out beautifully. The results are like a brand new trim panel now. So now this works as the way it should, and it looks like it was never damaged to begin with. I normally remove these military mil-spec connectors and just put DB connectors in there because I find it just makes life easier than trying to buy these expensive connectors or source them out. However, the inside of this panel is so complicated I decided to leave it as is. So it took me a bit of time to build some new cabling for it to get it integrated into the pit. But one of the greatest things about this is how it's integrated with the stick. Now you have to have a real stick, as the real stick will send in 28 volts DC into the relays, and then the relays will use 26 volts AC to turn the motors that spin these wheels, so everything works in conjunction together. And using this in flight is just tremendous, as now I can set my 3 trim axis, or my trims on an axis, on an analog axis, sorry, and the stick moves these wheels. Thus, I'm now using all analog axis instead of digital. So now I set a null center, which makes it really easy that once I adjust it, I can just put it anywhere near the center and it's going to be centered. So I'm constantly not adjusting the trim in flight. So it's just outstanding. So yeah, another addition to the pit. Again, the more I add real parts and the more I get them working properly, just gives so much more satisfaction to having such a nice pit. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.